Says 1 o'clock here. We call to order the March 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Board of Trustees of CPS Energy. And we always begin with a safety message, and we have Heath Bentley, Environmental Analyst 2, Environmental Management.
Hi, good afternoon. I'll begin with a safety message. In a case of emergency, please follow these steps. Exit through the double doors, and then walk through the glass doors outside the building. Past security. And once outside the building, proceed to the crosswalk, past the Mexican consulate, and head to parking lot 4 at Nueva and South St. Mary Street. If we can't go through the double doors, please exit through the single door on the other side of the boardroom. And once we get to a safe location, we'll receive further instructions from a member of our safety and security team on next steps.
Thank you very much. While we're on safety message, I'm wondering if you might be able to address the group on the coronavirus in terms of CPS Energy. And Mayor, I don't want to put you on the spot. By the way, thank you for your leadership on this, but would you like to say anything at this point about it?
Sure. San
And
Antonio,
you're welcome to come up here if you'd like.
Sure. I didn't bring my notes with me, but good afternoon, everyone. About 3 weeks ago, San Antonio was part of a quarantine mission to repatriate evacuated Americans from the Wuhan, city of Wuhan in China, the Hubei province. We've been conducting that operation. Everything's been going extraordinarily well in partnership with STRAC and our regional medical providers. We have been communicating back with them how we can improve protocols. As of yesterday, you may have seen that CDC released a patient who had previously tested negative for the virus, who had been tested positive once, but again had been free of the virus with 2 tests. Was subsequently released and was later determined to have a pending test result that came back positive. That person has now been brought back by the CDC into the state facility, is back in isolation, is undergoing additional testing. We're working right now with our Metropolitan Health District to ensure that the level of exposure to any member of the public is contained, and that those folks who may have come in contact with that patient are notified, and that any additional observation that's needed is conducted. At this time, we are communicating the need for CDC to extend the quarantine for those folks who they were planning on releasing, so that additional testing can be done to assure that anyone released from quarantine is not at a risk of exposure to the public. That's a dynamic situation right now. The guidance from our medical community, and this is unanimous across the board, is that we take all precautions as we would any individual, any family, and the prevention of disease spread during this time of year. It's flu season. It's been one of the worst flu seasons in the last 5 years, and so the hand sanitizer on the table is very appropriate. Making sure that you don't come in contact with folks who are ill, also very appropriate. If you have symptoms of an illness, go get seen by a doctor and try not to come in contact with anybody. We will keep everyone apprised of the situation as it unfolds related to the quarantine mission, also our preparations in the event of community spread of coronavirus. Essentially, this city, our community, time and again has shown itself to be the very best of the best when it comes to disaster and emergency response. We do so in a very compassionate manner, but we also require good coordination between our state and federal authorities. Unfortunately, that's been a little bit lacking in some areas, and we've communicated that, and we're going to work to rectify that. But please rest assured that everyone at the local level, our Metropolitan Health District, the county, STRAC, is all doing everything we possibly can within our local authority to protect the public.
Good. Thanks again for your leadership.
Yeah.
Do you want to add something more related to CPS Energy?
Sure. So I have a slide in my presentation, a couple of them, but the high level point is that CPS Energy has had a pandemic program for years. Bird flu, of different things that have happened across the globe, we've monitored. And so we have that, and our pandemic program is tied to our business continuity program. Obviously, we are very concerned about the safety of the community, the public, our employees. Everything is really important in so many levels. We think about the fact that if our workforce gets penetrated on any level of this illness, or you need to be quarantined, it could affect the way that we serve this community. So we take it really seriously from that perspective. We have instituted a daily call about the pandemic. We are monitoring activities from around the globe. We are in contact with the city and all the partners across the city to talk about what can be done. We've done lightly the whole fist bump. You'll see us fist bumping, elbow bumping. The chair has talked to me about, the Japanese symbol of respect and acknowledging people. I mean, you will see us take it mandatorily more serious. So it is hard. I tried to implement it myself a couple of weeks ago, and it's hard. I'm a hugger in San Antonio. We all know each other when we want to do those things. But in the sense of really thinking about this virus, which is real, and the issues that we know is there is no current medication for that. And so again, I think we are taking it very seriously. We're at the point where we are looking at travel. Our people, again, we think global and apply local. So we are, there are countries that are off our business list for visiting right now. We are thinking about broadly what's the implications for big international airports, even in the United States. We give all of our employees advice. We have little kits that they can take with them. There's no real prevention per se, but when you get into those big international airports, there are things that are exposure. If you can see that, and maybe we need to put another big jug elsewhere, as I'm touching my eyes, a big jug somewhere maybe close to the podium, but we are in the practice now of cleansing our hands, washing your hands, cleansing your hands, and being careful how you contact is extremely important right now. So we're doing all we can right now, and we're updating it, and there's a lot of activity. This entire senior chief group is actively involved with all the other members across San Antonio, and we're doing some extra measures. So that's kind of our current update.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I don't know if we could get some of that for our audience in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're working on it now? Okay, great. Let's move to public comment. I'll go ahead and read this. It provides an opportunity for members of the public to share thoughts on any of the meeting's posted agenda items. This is the process we'll follow. I'll invite registered speakers to the microphone in the order in which they registered so that we may hear their comments. They may only address the board on CPS Energy-related business listed on the posted agenda for this meeting. For this meeting, we have 5 registered speakers who will have 2 minutes to speak. The speakers should introduce themselves when they step to the microphone and indicate the agenda item they're going to speak about. I think all of them signed up to speak on agenda item 13, which is the rate advisory committee. So if a registered speaker chooses to utilize handouts, 7 copies of the documents must have been provided at the time of sign up. As we begin our meeting today, please be aware that the meeting is being broadcast via the internet, so at any point, any of us, including the audience, may be visible to anyone watching online. So our first speaker is Dee Dee Belmaris, followed by Alan Montemayor. Ms. Belmaris.
It's tough being short. Good afternoon. My name is Dee Dee Belmaris. I'm with Public Citizen, and I'm speaking to agenda item number 13, proposed rate advisory committee. Public Citizen welcomes a proposed CPS Energy rate advisory committee, as this will be a start that will provide for an open and transparent process that allows for community members to have an active role in participating in the utilities rate and generation planning decisions. The need for transparency and access to data will be critical for this committee, as this information has consistently been withheld by CPS Energy. The city of San Antonio had even requested data during the climate planning process, but it was never provided. Recently, Public Citizen made an open records request for any data, information, or inputs used to determine which generation planning scenarios would be modeled by CPS Energy and assumptions made in this modeling. As of January 22nd, we're still waiting for that information, even though what we requested was not competitive. We're also asking for the solar and storage request for proposal should go out now. The solar and investment tax credit declines at the end of 2020 from 26% to 22%, and then declines to 10% for 2022 and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Belmars. Next is Alan Montemayor, followed by Terry Burns.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you again today. My name is Alan Montemayor. I will generally be speaking on item 13. We very much support the formation of this committee and want it to move forward, particularly with an eye towards equity. I think that's very, very important. I also wanted to comment on several other things. To start off with a joke. Do you guys know why the hippopotamuses in Egypt are not concerned about climate change?
Why?
Because they're in denial. No, I'm not suggesting that anybody on this committee is in denial concerning climate change. However, I want to stress that you guys are in the know and you have the ability to make a big difference in the area of climate change in San Antonio. We are on the cusp of formulating our climate action implementation plan, and I very much hope that CPS Energy will be proactive with all of those changes, meaning not just cognizant of what's going on and not just being present at the meetings, but being active in the entire process and being proactive at making this move forward. There's so much that you guys can do from your position of power. We very much want to see electric vehicles move forward. We want to see more electric vehicles in CPS Energy's fleet of vehicles, particularly their light-duty fleet. I don't see that moving very fast. I'm not sure why. It's a win-win for everyone, and it seems to be a no-brainer for me. The natural gas rebates that you guys are still offering on your website, okay, need to go away, and we need to be moving towards clean electric new builds on houses and businesses, because in the future your mix is going to be cleaner. There's a statement here on your natural gas rebate page that gas releases fewer emissions. Well, as your generation mix becomes cleaner and cleaner, that's going to change, and you need to be preparing our customers for cleaner and greener. I very much would like to see you guys being proactive in many different areas in climate change, particularly as it relates to getting rid of coal. There's a statement on your handout that goes out in all the bills that electrons and molecules love everyone. I didn't know how to really take that. It seems sort of mysterious what that means, but I took it to mean that the sulfur dioxide and the particulates and the mercury and the lead that come out of your coal plants love everyone's lungs here in San Antonio. So when you look at when we're going to close this plant down, please don't look at just the economics of it. Look at the overall big picture of carbon and the health of our citizens. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So next is Terry Burns, followed by Greg Harmon.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Terry Burns. I'm the chair of the Alamo Sierra Club. I want to first of all congratulate and thank all of you for it's tough to be tall sometimes, for instituting a number of positive changes, I think, that we have requested. These include this opportunity to speak to the board, very much appreciated. The minutes are online now, very much appreciated, including our comments, and the video presentations. So these are really important steps forward. Likewise, I strongly support the mayor's efforts and hope you'll vote for this rate advisory committee that's been proposed. This is really important to broaden the conversation and include the equity and environmental and all kinds of other important groups in the discussion about resource energy planning and rate structure. I was a little disappointed or concerned that the language says up to 2 models For research generation, I would say we should maybe have at least 2 models for research generation and at least 2 models for rate structure. But I think these are really important steps forward to improve CPS and improve its coordination with the community's priorities on climate change, on the important implementation steps of the climate plan that the city is beginning. These things are really critical. I also urge you to be very transparent in these committees with data. I've attended 2 cycles now of the SAWS RAC process. Lots and lots of frustration, especially in this cycle, from astute members of those committee. I'm an outside observer, but about getting the data, they really need to have really good recommendations come forth. I hope you'll do much better in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it. Our next speaker is Greg Harmon, followed by Tuan Pham.
Hi, thank you all again. I just wanted to, obviously, y'all are familiar with many of our faces. You've seen some come and go, step in, but I think the message has stayed the same for probably 15 years, and it has a lot to do with this transparency issue and many different iterations of that. And so I think that the ideal is the depth as we can, as much as we can integrate community into generation decisions and the operations of CPS is really the goal. It's going to take the creativity of the whole community to achieve these reductions, greenhouse gas reductions, and the transition into clean energy. And obviously, y'all have adopted the Climate Action Adaptation Plan with its own measures. The first coming up in 2030 that we're trying to get over 40% reductions by then. I haven't seen specific, though spelled out, a vision of what that looks like for CPS. We're working with the Flex Plan. I'm assuming with the anticipation or the ambition of reaching those metrics. But generally, just want to express my support, my personal support, and that of the Sierra Club for moving in this direction of greater transparency, community integration, and I'm looking forward to hopefully something will be very deeply collaborative once hopefully this committee is formed. The Paris goals, which are the starting point for the Climate Action Plan, can't be met without CPS Energy. It's just not going to happen. I know there was early conversations about what the CPS contribution is. The CPS contribution is the greatest in the entire San Antonio region. So we can't get there without you. I was really appreciative of Dr. Mackey and Mr. Steen meeting with some of us. They asked a lot of clarifying questions. It was an engaging, intellectual, and friendly conversation. Thank you for the gas RFP that came about. I'm hoping we can do the same thing with coal as soon as possible. And just to reiterate what we shared with Dr. Mackey and Mr. Steen is that we're looking for a just transition. We're deeply concerned about the workers. We want to see good jobs in San Antonio. And so that's where this conversation goes. Working families have to be prioritized as they are in the CAP. So when we talk about equity in the community conversation, it's a deep value of ours, of mine personally. So don't forget that. If we come up, we're talking about carbon and coal, that's where we want to go and the values we want to pursue. So
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Our last speaker is Tuan Pham. Did I pronounce that okay?
Yeah, it's Tuan Pham.
Tuan Pham.
Thank
Okay,
you.
welcome.
So yeah, Chairman Steen, Trustees, Paula, thanks for your time today. My name is Tuan Pham. I'm the head of a company called Powerfin Partners. We've been operating the Solar Host program in partnership with CPS since 2015. So today I wanted to talk to you with regard to item number 13 on the agenda. And I just wanted to say, while it might not first appear relevant, my remarks do address and illustrate the importance of these issues and how non-rate.
Sorry, are you speaking to the mic a
Yeah.
Okay,
little
yeah,
bit?
sorry. So yeah.
There
just-
you go, because we can't hear.
Okay, yeah. So non-rate decisions can impact the financial position of CPS and ultimately its ratepayers. But most of all, I just wanted to quantify a few things. My understanding based on the last board meeting, the trustees meeting, was that the 300 to 900 megawatt solar RFP could be delayed 6 to 12 months. A delay will result in, number one, $100 million increase in the cost over a 25-year period for the procurement of solar. After the ITC steps down, that's about 6% over a 20-year period of time. Happy to go through the specifics of those numbers. Number two is that we do think that it's not an either-or situation. I know that there's some confusion about natural gas and how it may displace the procurement of solar, but in fact, it firms up the procurement and complements solar. In California and other places where solar has been adopted, they have a problem called the duck curve. Solar does not generate in the late afternoon or early evening. CPS wants to buy natural gas to complement its 900 megawatt, up to 900 megawatt procurement of solar. The other thing I'd like to state here is that we need to move forward as quickly as possible. If this is not contracted by the middle of this year, then construction activities will not begin by the end of this year. If that happens, then look, at the end of the day, everybody wants solar. Our program, which actually does focus on equity, your customers, either you buy solar or your customers buy solar. Those are going to lead to revenue losses with the utility and within the community. So, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Please issue the RFP as soon as possible.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's move to item 4, the invocation and pledge of allegiance, and we'll call forward again Mr. Bentley.
For a moment, I invite you to express gratitude for our health, for our families and our friends, and for the opportunity to come together as a community today. We honor our trustees for the responsibility they bear. We wish them success today in making decisions with wisdom and humility. We are reminded that we are all stewards acting on behalf of our customers, and we accomplish our goals together with that singular purpose in mind. Now, please place your please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Did they warn you I might ask you some questions?
Oh, they told me a little bit about it.
Well, tell us about yourself. How long you've been with CPS Energy and about your job.
So I started here a little over a year ago. In November, I work in the environmental department. I'm an archaeologist. And so I pretty much work with everybody in the company who digs and make sure that we're in compliance with city and state regulations and that we're not disturbing really any significant archaeological or historical remains that are all throughout the city.
In the year that you've been here, have you had any issues that relate to digging and archaeology? Any interesting stories?
Well, since we've been here we've had a piece of property that we purchased not too long ago next to our 10th Street substation. There's we found an old limestone building from the mid-1800s within the current structure that's built around it. And we did some research into that and found that that was used to be a beer garden that was owned by our by O.W. Sommers, our old general manager. It was his grandfather. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Other than that, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I don't have a beer garden, but obviously I'm not doing it right.
Let's move to the CEO's report. Are you ready?
Thank you. Double check that I'm off too. Yeah.
I have to check your watch.
Well, this is true. Okay. I am going to give the update, but I also thought I would highlight a couple of items. One of them is a communication to the entire board about some consulting that we want to get some help with around the Flex Power Bundle RFP, which is of interest to folks. And then another one is an article that ran yesterday about solid waste. So, solid waste pickup and billing. So those are just articles for your reference. We're going to talk about it broadly and have a couple of conversations. You don't have to read that now, but just for your future reference, we wanted to pull those out to your attention. Okay, so I'll jump in. We have several things that I'm going to highlight. As usual, I'm going to go over the board agenda and give you a little bit of insight about the topics they're on. I'm going to make a couple of comments about our City of the Future conference that we had last week. I'll skim through a little bit. I've touched already on the pandemic, but I have a slide on that. And then I'm going to talk about financial markets. In some ways, or maybe in a big way, this pandemic issue is now affecting financial markets globally, and I want to talk about that. The Flex Power Bundle and partnerships, community, and other. In that section is where I want to talk a bit about the solid waste challenge that we have and opportunity. And the Bare Facts survey that came out not too long ago in between the last meeting and this one. So that's what I will cover. Before I jump in, I want to talk about, this was some of the feedback that we've gotten before. You know, we're doing more to try to make our materials helpful. We did update our website, and so we have the opportunity to make sure that all of our customers know when they come in, they can get access to our board information. And again, this was based on insight that we have. I clicked on it, a couple clicks, and so the point is you can come in here and you can go down and look at the most recent meeting coming up. Underneath there are the materials for everything that we have previously presented, but we're going to pull up the agenda and more context about every item where there is a presentation. So yes, we thought that was a great idea. We created this page as a result of a lot of things, a public decision to have the public comment and all those things. We've created this component of our website, and we're improving it every time we can. You have seen this, and you will continue to see this. I mean, we're not in the real estate business from the commercial perspective. We have identified over time different pieces of property that we have operated, and then we determined that strategically we no longer need them. The board has a portfolio of properties that they did approve for them to be marketed. We've been in a process heavily since last year to market these group of properties. We have a consulting firm, CBRE, that actually oversees our process. We have to be very careful as a municipal entity to follow the process of marketing it very clearly and carefully. And so CBRE has done a great job marketing this. And I just want to reiterate again, when we got interest from that was published in the commercial real estate magazines just by what we were doing here. Some of them have designations for grants and different things that can be helpful to a new party. Again, CBRE has helped us do a really great job with that. And as we go along, we're going to position the board to take final approval for us to sell these properties. And we did one last month in January, almost a little over a month ago. And then we have another one today, and we have several in the queue. So that's on the agenda. Cost savings, always again, the board's drivers for us to think about how do we continue to go after cost savings, and you'll get an update this time on one that, you know, we like the ones that are operational, the ones that help us do better, think about how do we improve our processes, and at the same time end up with a better quality of work. So you're going to hear about our construction process and what we've done to improve how we QC that work and save money at the same time. And that one will result in about $100,000 saving every year going forward. Financial update. You're going to hear from our CFO. You know that we've had a good fiscal year 2020, and everything looks good. The audit has been kicked off, the year-end audit work, and so we won't know until April whether or not the financials are final. But in general, our results are really great. The thing I want to highlight again, the challenge that we're really having is we can budget at a high case, we can budget at a expected case, and we can also still have a downside year. We choose to be in the conservative case because we're constantly looking and managing, and we really never know until we get past the summer whether or not we're going to take in more revenues than expenses, particularly relative to our plants. And we always highlight the plants are performing. Ultimately, we want to do the flex power bundle because we need to start replacing that capacity. Because it's like you have a 50-year-old car that you're driving to work every day as your daily commute, not as your saving car that you only drive on Sundays and good weather. This is the car, and these are the plants that we're operating every year, year after year. And so they have been performing, and we had another good year last year. Fiscal 2021, Dolores will talk about that a little bit as well in the same presentation. We again budgeted at kind of an expected conservative case. We have no idea whether we will have a plant issue or a transmission issue or what will really happen to the pricing in the summer. We really don't know that till we go through it. We have noticed that the reserve margins are higher, meaning there's more capacity in the market. When there's more capacity in the market, it just means prices won't really go as high. We're early, but we assumed that the reserve margin was going to be a little bit lower. It's over 10%. We were in the 8s last year. 10% starts to change the market and how an operator will react to putting their capacity in there, and maybe that's a little bit of pressure on our financial results. What's happening then, because of that higher reserve margin and the abundance of gas, we're seeing power prices currently not being as high. So we see a little pressure right now on our forecast. And again, Dolores is going to talk about it. Still could be an up year, it could be an average year, or it can be a down year. But we wanted to give you a sense of the kind of things that we're looking at, so you'll get that update. Citizens Advisory Committee appointees. We have 2 appointees, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to just kind of highlight again. We've had the CAC for over 20 years, and they look at a wide range of topics, and I just wanted to give you a sense. Like when we're doing substation and transmission developments, like we did in the Midtown Substation that you'll hear about today, and we're going to be requesting action, we actually bring that to the CAC. They look at that, give us feedback, and give us advice and counsel. Our business continuity initiatives and things that we're doing, give them briefings on that, and they give us feedback. Our customer programs, they look at those quite a bit. Like what are we doing, and what else more that we can do? They're really connected out in their neighborhoods. They connect the ones to the district, connect to their council members who are available. But then we also have at-large members because we have we're covering suburban cities and counties with those as well. So just wanted to give you a sense. It's really important when we get members. We have 2 up for today. One of them actually is a in management at Alpha Environmental, and one of them, Ms. Velez, is from Congressman Doggett's office. So we're really excited that people continue to want to serve in this way. Midtown Substation, as I said before, we've been trying to focus on the improvements that we can make. We have to make sure that reliability is maintained across the system. We look for where there is an additional need for investment in our infrastructure. And when we do that, again, it's an investment and it helps us with reliability. So I just want to highlight, and again, you'll hear from Leroy today, we had multiple discussions where we did sessions at night and answered questions. We ultimately heard from neighbors and we heard from associations that helped us craft improvements to our proposal. So in essence, we had a great collaboration with the community, with the customers in the area. Councilman Trevino leaned into some meetings and helped us get through some of the extra things that customers felt were valuable, and to kind of help us figure out, brainstorm with them what we could do. HEB was a great partner. You've heard that before, that we are moving the orientation of our substation, and that was done with the help of HEB, because we were having to swap some property so we can position it in a way that's more attractive for the community. And then ultimately we had board support. Dr. Mackey actually headed up the last session that we had, and Trustee Kelly was there. And again, it was another opportunity to hear that input. One of the even in that meeting, I think we got 7 suggestions, and we are addressing those suggestions. Everything from more trees, smaller driveway, reflective paint so it doesn't become a heat island, things like that. And they also ask for liaisons, so we'll have two people that they can, the neighbors can call directly if there's something that's not happening appropriately as we execute that plan. So you'll hear about that. Rate Advisory Committee. We have that on the agenda for vote. It will be discussed today. The mayor has made a recommendation. My name is by the item, but I'm going to toss it to the mayor at that point in time to help lead the discussion and then be here for support as you all talk about it. This item, and maybe we have multiple items, real estate, some others standard on the list, but this item, as well as the solid waste issue, we will in executive session get counsel from our GC. She's going to give you some counsel around the RAC, just to make sure, again, as we start to frame it, the board has some ideas about legal issues and legal things that we want to make an opportunity and make sure that we're guided right and make you aware. And then any business model issues that we want to kind of raise. Just again, so you'll have that information as we look to move into a vote when we come into open session again. So management is ready to go whatever direction that the board would like, and so we look forward to that discussion today. We do have an info towards the very end of the presentation. We have a update from our Vice President of Customer Success, and again, we're going to tie in how we look at getting insights from the global trends that we see from the perspective that our customers have, and try to figure out how we're going to update our programs and how we have done some and other things that we're looking at. So that presentation will happen later. Okay. So the extra stuff. So again, I wanted to comment that we started out with a Future of Energy. Several years ago, we did the Future of Energy conference. That turned into last year, the City of the Future. And so this is our second of that one, but we've had annual meetings where we've invited the public and businesses and our employees and civic leaders, anyone who would want to come and kind of talk about where it is the industry going. We had a really good conference. We were lucky to get, the mayor did a video, where part of what we did to open the conference, to have comments from the mayor was well received. And then Trustee Gonzalez was able to support the event. It was there both days. And so it was nice to have a trustee who could do there and actually be, as we were talking about technology and trends, it was really kind of very informative. Our city manager helped me kick it off. I did the keynote, but ultimately he and I tag teamed about what does our partnership look like in terms of smart cities and new opportunities for projects. So this was part of our event, and so that was we were pleased, and we're going to go on to plan another one for next year. So here, I don't really need to mention much else here, but it is part of our ongoing look at what can we do relative to this virus, the COVID-19. It includes education, and includes, again, thinking about our employees who are traveling and how do we handle that when they come back, and making sure that they're touching base with the Department of Health Services, those kind of things. So there's many activities. All the senior chiefs are involved. Fred, of course, is helping to lead, and Frank. To help us kind of get through that. But we'll keep you posted if there's anything big that we have to do. This was just a side note again. What you see there is a graph, not the greatest, but if you look, the big takeaway, this is the year's graph from the New York Stock Exchange. This is having global implications to investments, supply chains, tourism, health, goes on in implication. We're monitoring it from all of those perspectives, including our supply chain. There are certain things that we are beginning to notice that there might be some challenges. Nothing that is disrupting our operations today, but we ultimately think that this is a really big deal, and so you're seeing it transpire in the financial markets. I'm on the Fed, the local Fed for San Antonio that feeds into the Dallas Fed, and so they are obviously watching what's happening fundamentally. And they believe that they have enough financial triggers to help support some of the pressure that's happening financially. But, for example, interest rates don't have a lot of capacity in there, so you can't do a ton. but you can be aware and you can be looking at this in terms of your own investments and things that you have to do. So we won't have information until after the end of the month to see what's happening, trending in our own investments. We have investments for our trust, we have direct investments, so we'll look and see what that implication is. Maybe the only upside, it's early in the year, and so depending on the ability to get a handle on this real issue relative to this national pandemic and how it's developing is, by the end of the year, hopefully again there's a vaccine and other things that can help stabilize some of the trends that we're seeing globally. Okay, so this tends to be of interest. We definitely want to get the Flex Power Bundle out. We have felt like we have some questions still to answer, but we feel pretty ready. But as we think about this, we feel like it's going to be a big global thing, and we think there are going to be a lot of people interested. Of course, we want the local businesses to have a great shot at what we're doing and the opportunities. But we also want to attract global interest so they can bring more dollars investment into San Antonio. What we thought about is we need some help with a consultant that's going to help us, pull all the responses together. We think there'll be hundreds of responses. And so we are putting out now a RFP for a consultant to help us with getting through all that, and then us help putting that information out in the public. So we want to find a way to have open forums about the type of information that we're getting. The Flex Power Bundle proposal is a way to very clearly get indications of what people are willing to offer us. I mean, we could model all day long about all the things that are possible, but people will put interesting things on the table when we're able to do that. The biggest highlight, we had this ready in December. We had gotten a lot of input before that, and we had this ready in December, but we ended up not being able to get through all the items in December. We couldn't get through all the items in January. We talked about it on January 27th, but I want to highlight it again. So it has a solar component, it has an energy storage component, and now it has a reliability firm power component. And what we're looking for is, it doesn't have to be gas. We've gotten the input. It doesn't have to be gas. We're gas rich. It's kind of gas is the default, but it needs to beat or match the profile of gas. We need the firming nature of that component. So we think that opens us up to have more of a all resource component inside. And I will say at the same time, we are starting, not just from the solar community, but we are starting to get a lot of companies knocking on our door for new ideas, low to non-emitting ideas, very interesting things that we think have merit. And so we are just as anxious to get started with this, but we also think that we need to carefully bring in a consultant. And we can go faster than April. We just want to make sure that we do some more outreach and we get as much input as we can, but we agree. We think we need to get going on this as well. And this is just some of the things that we've done, and the sample thing is notifying you about the consultant that we're looking to bring on to help us. Partnerships. So this, I talked about this a lot at the City of the Future event. I mean, partnerships are critical. I mean, that's how we got the new energy economy partners that have come in and been a big part of our community, investing in jobs and economic development and education, so many different things. So we absolutely believe partnership is important. Now, we are an energy company, and so we're not a big research company. We're not a tech company. We're tech enabled. So that's why partnerships in every way are really important to what we do. But I want to talk about it in this vein. We have a big partnership on smart cities that the city is actually leading, that we participate in. Our conversion to digital meters will be critical to what's happening in terms of additional technology, helping the utilities move forward, helping the city move forward. So partnerships are kind of the core of what we do. And we have a lot of different ones with different parties, but I will say the partnerships between Bexar County, San Antonio, City of San Antonio, and CPS Energy have been very critical for us really driving quite a bit of value for San Antonio and our customers. these are a couple of examples of partnerships that we've had. We had the radio system project that we are currently doing. This is a network of first responders, the sheriff's department, the police department, the fire department, and our employees. I will highlight again, if there's a fire in the building where there is power going to the building, the first people on site, before any work can be done, is CPS Energy. Our employees are making sure that that place is safe for it to happen. So we very much believe in that partnership. And ultimately, we help figure out how to do energy restoration in those instances, and it's a great partnership that works. We've had a partnership that's been in existence, I think, since 2001, the Residential Energy Assistance Partnership, or REAP. We've had that program for a long time. That, again, is where the county, the city, and CPS Energy work together and put together a plan where we can give credits on bills to customers who need the most assistance. And we combine those funds with other funds to help as many customers as deeply as we can. Again, a great partnership. We have more than 50,000 people who participate in our affordability discount program and our REAP program on top of that. So these partnerships are very critical. The city and the county in this case do the intake. They do just about all the intake. So if somebody comes to the office, goes to a council member's office, they'll actually process the application. They can do it online. We can do it ourselves too. When we go out, we have a way to sign up people for these programs. But the credits to the account and the ability to actually add payment arrangements and other benefits come from us. And it's, again, to help people with their energy bills. We see a lot of activity in the summer and quite a bit in the winter. Increasingly, now we're getting to winter peaks. The third partnership, which is the point that was in the paper on Sunday, is one on solid waste. We've had a partnership where the city, the county, and CPS Energy work together in certain aspects of solid waste pickup of garbage across the community. Hasn't been a lot of customers, it's been some. So in this relationship, the two parties that can actually pick up trash, the city does it, the county doesn't actively do it, but they can actually pick it up or they can contract it out. And there are people who do that service. The way this has worked in the partnership is CPS Energy has done the billing for the city of San Antonio. We are not set up to be on the garbage pickup business. We have a very narrow purpose. Our purpose is to do energy and energy related. We partner with the city because we're attaching to the city's authority to be able to do garbage. And so that's why we've done billing for the city, and that relationship puts us in a space to be able to be helpful. And we are ready to follow that partnership and continue with it. We are ready to do that. There are other, let me go back, I'm sorry. There are other activities that can happen. There are other ways to fund. Not every city owns their utility. So this is not, the garbage pickup is not a unique to San Antonio. This happens all over the place, including the state of Texas. So we are ultimately willing to do that. And I'm sorry, maybe I should go here. So again, the article was very interesting. We thought, we know that there's a lot of passion for it, but we don't drive it. We're here to support as best we can, but we don't drive the issue. And contrary to what the article said, for all the people, the elected officials from the city, and there are other elected officials who are interested in this, and the county, we have not declined any meetings, and we stand ready to continue to meet with them. Again, we were ready to brainstorm. We've done some of our own research to kind of look to see what can be done. And again, other communities are handling this. So we want to stay at the table to be proactive, and we are going to do some additional outreach to the county.
I'm sorry, being new.
Yes.
Still, even though it's been a year. So you're saying that our trucks don't physically pick it up,
No.
but we bill on behalf of the city?
Yes.
And can I ask, how did we arrive at doing it on behalf of the city? The city doesn't have the capability to charge?
They don't have a billing system like ours.
I see.
And
So
they
more of
they
a
could
robust system.
They could do it through the year-end assessment and property taxes, but they've asked us to do it because they're actually in the garbage business. And again, we're attaching to their business model. So they actually do that for everybody else in the incorporated San Antonio.
Okay, so it's just our capability, our system's capability.
Has
is
been
why
the
we partner.
attraction.
Has been the attraction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we couldn't get a DBA because every time CPS's name is everywhere. Because I think that was very misleading. People were stating, you know, I'm sorry, I was just reading on social media, that if our name's there, then we're responsible. But they don't understand that we're only the facilitator, the payment exchange.
We're
e-commerce.
We're in the partnership. We're not driving the business. We're not in that business, to your point. Now, we've never been the focal point because we don't do the collection. It's only been this one thing that seemed to work well, but I mean, the city's growing, so here's a challenge, but it's a challenge for us as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so getting to the end. That said, while it's always a challenge to try to do the right thing. It's always a challenge to get out there. Again, I want to applaud our 3,000 plus employees that go all over San Antonio. We do the People First fairs. We go to different business meetings. We answer questions. All of that stuff, I think, absolutely matters. There was recently a new survey out there, a community survey across Bexar County, and we were very pleased that we ranked the highest of all the municipal entities. And we are humbled by that and thankful for that. And as this one issue shows, anything can really be a perception issue or an actual issue that you have to continue to stay on top of. But to be able to get that, to know that the work that the employees are doing across San Antonio does matter to our average citizens was a great bit of feedback. We're not going to give up. We don't think that we've accomplished something that's in stone. We know that every single day we got to go out there and do the best thing we can. And we're also going to delve further into the survey information because there's a lot of details in there that we want to get as much insights about the profile of people and what they think about CPS Energy and what else we could do. So here's a video though. Hopefully it plays well. Just a little extra.
Your take from the poll. Man, I was really surprised to see, happy to see that our public utility companies did very well, and it speaks to the education and outreach they do to the communities and to the taxpayers. I mean, give CPS Energy the People's Choice Award because they had the highest percentage point for their job approval.
As DeMonte mentioned, CPS Energy gets the gold star, right? They do a lot for
73% approval.
It's exceptional.
And this is actually you can go out there and go into the KSAT program, and it went on for about an hour. There's a lot of insights. I thought it was interesting. He goes, very surprising, CPS Energy won. Yeah, we were surprised in a good way. But again, the accolades are to the team, and the honor and appreciation is to the community and our customers. And again, we're going to keep trying to do better all the way. I do have a little bit of a bonus if I have just a couple more minutes. Mr. Christian Archer, who was, you didn't see him very long. It was only a 30-second video, but he was in the middle there. Actually was part of the group and actually was the person who thought, other communities have this type of feedback and made sure it happened. And I thought if you had a couple of questions that you might want to ask them as board members, we're gonna again dig and ask for more assistance going forward. Like how could we really get really great insights? But just because this is pretty hot off the press and he was available, he's been traveling, he's in town. I thought I'd invite him up to see if you had any questions about this.
Mr. Archer, there are probably people sitting in this room don't have any idea what we're talking about when you say bare facts. Why don't you start from the beginning?
Okay, I'll start from the beginning. In 2003, I ran Bill White's campaign for mayor of Houston. And in Houston, they do a very deep dive. It's a nonprofit organization called the Kinder Institute, and they do a deep dive into all things that matter to the city of Houston. And San Antonio just doesn't have that same apparatus. So we founded a nonprofit called Bare Facts, and we do the very first poll that we did, we just completed a few weeks ago. It took a deep dive at the county and at the city. We did a sample size of 651 different members of the community from the city and the county, so that you could break down city, it's basically an entire city poll, and an entire county poll. And so this is our very first initiative. We're going to do it every 3 months. We'll do a deeper dive into particular issues. But the first poll was really to get an overall sense of where San Antonio is and what the citizens think of not only utilities, but across the board, things that matter to the city. And I think that the overall takeaway was people in San Antonio are proud of this city, and they are genuinely excited about the future of the city. I've seen surveys. The pollster is a guy named Dave Metz. He's in Harvard MBA. The name of his firm is FM3 out of San Francisco. If you want to get into all of the details, we asked 63 individual questions about different various ranging issues. Again, the website that you can see all of the details and get into the crosstabs. I mean, the real meat of a poll is on our website, barefax.org. And you can find out everything from age group to ethnicity. You can find out the partisanship if you're a Democrat or a Republican. The good news for CPS Energy was it was across the board. There wasn't just one demographic that stood out. 73% support of CPS Energy was number one, not only of utilities, but it was number one across the city. So that's obviously great news for CPS Energy. But as it compares to other cities in America, the public utilities in other cities, CPS Energy is plus 25 points compared to other utilities. I've seen it in different states, different cities in Texas. CPS Energy is by far the best utility I've ever seen polled.
So we're going to do that. You're going to do this every 3 months.
We will, yeah. So, it's different political issues.
The pressure's on now.
Yes, I see. So what is what was the sample again? How many people?
651, which, I think a lot of people that don't understand polling also don't understand where we can get to a statistical.
Well, I was going to say, if you can elaborate a little bit more about it, because I know for me, when I think about how big our city is.
Right,
I'm
651
curious.
people does not sound like a
That's
lot.
It's a good
but
question because it's the science of polling.
It sure
Right,
is.
so I
And
kind
it-
of wonder if you could share a little bit more about that.
It's science.
Right.
There's a 96% confidence rating when you do 651. Normally, if we were going to poll a citywide poll, we would sample size about 400 people. And you want to make sure that, and I also want to make one other point. This was a sampling of likely November voters, which also narrows the pool down. So it's not everyone. It's people that are mostly plugged in that would be able to understand a lot of the issues facing the city. If you're a voter, you're going to understand what CPS Energy, and I think it was 13% didn't know what CPS Energy was. So
With that being said, is your organization going to make an effort to survey people that are usually historically not voting? Because I think for me, that continues to be my biggest concern.
Sure.
We tend to always hear about the people who vote, who are always, and I think that's great, but a lot of times those individuals are making decisions on behalf of the people who don't vote, who are struggling. So I'm curious.
that's right. And the Kinder Institute does not do likely voters. They do everyone. They look at the entire community. One of the interesting things that came out of it was they just recently did their big public announcement. They had over 2,000 people go to a luncheon to be briefed on the Kinder Institute. And it's been going on in Houston for about 20 years. They have a $15 million endowment because they rely on this information. So this, again, Janie, I want to make sure this was the very beginning. This is baseline information. And so we want to expand our role. We're going to expand the number of people that are involved. If you're interested in being involved, we have a thing on the website called Voice It, Change It. But more importantly, if you want to be in the room as we're making decisions on what to poll, we're putting together a much larger advisory committee. You saw the other two members of the team, Lisa Baratachea and DeMonte Alexander, but we really do want the community involved in this. So the answer is yes, we really want to expand it. There have been a lot of philanthropic people that have reached out to me that want to be involved, that would like to see a Kinder Institute style yearly view rather than every 3 months. Originally, I wanted to be able to look at particular issues. We have pre-K for SA, we have Props 1 and 2, all of those things we wanted to be able to kind of get into the meat of those policy and political discussions. So doing it every 3 months gives us that opportunity, but it doesn't take a 30,000 foot view like the Kinder Institute, and that's where we hope to evolve it to.
So you asked 63 questions. Any of those other questions that might impact on CPS Energy? For example, anything on climate change or anything like that?
So again, at the website, bearfax.org, sorry to get my plug in, but there's a lot of really cool stuff there. And being able to look at the demographics and get into the meat of a poll, we tested everything. We did open-ended questions. And so I don't really want to comment on climate change, because I think that when we asked an open-ended question, there might be something that is more relevant to you today than climate change. Climate change is a big thing that if we wanted to really study it, we should do a poll on climate change and how it affects CPS Energy. So climate change wasn't at the top of everyone's mind, but with a word of caution too, this is a snapshot of that day when and it was a 5 day, over 5 days that we did this sampling size. Climate change was actually lower than I would have anticipated. Issues like homelessness or the issues of the day really were at the top of people's mind. But if we wanted to get into issues like climate change and CPS Energy, I think that we ought to, and I would love input on things that CPS Energy might help the board, might help the discussion on climate change and CPS. We'd love to add it into our survey.
Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Great, absolutely.
Yeah.
Enjoyed
I'm
it.
just going to give him the fist bump. Thank you so much for coming. That is the end of my presentation.
Paul, before
Anything
you
else?
sit down,
Yes, sir.
that is quite a, of course, the pressure's on because you're going to
Yes,
ask
sir.
again in 3 months, but congratulations to you for
Again.
leading this organization that had the highest approval rating.
Well, it's because of the way that they work in the field and the way that, I mean, there's so many things that are non-standard and so many things that we can have issues on, but we have we're self-critical enough and passionate enough about this community. So it's all the employees that are working really hard every day.
Okay, so we'll give you a round of applause, I guess.
On behalf of everybody, all right, thank you.
All right, now we go to executive session, Ms. Shellman.
Yes, sir. At this time, the board will convene into executive session pursuant to provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss attorney-client matters under Section 071, real property under, it's actually subsection 072, gifts or donations under 073, personnel under 074, security personnel or devices under 076, economic development under 087, to discuss or deliberate or take final action on competitive matters under 086, to talk about security audits and devices under 089, to deliberate under Texas Government Code Section 418.183 about confidential information under the Texas Homeland Security Act. It's 202. Yes, sir, it is now 3:12 p.m. The board has concluded its executive session. No matters were discussed in that session other than those that were noticed. No votes were taken. It's 3:12 p.m.
All right, Mayor, normally we'd move to this resolution for approval of real estate item, but would you like, since you've got to leave at 3:30, would you like us to move item 13 to now?
Sure, if that's possible.
We'll leave that. Okay. So we'll take up agenda item 13, which is the Rate Advisory Committee. And I think we've got Paula Gold Williams down as the presenter sponsor, but I think, Mayor, we want to turn the floor over to you if that's all right. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you to our CPS staff, Paula in particular, to the board As you know, last month, I presented a concept for a rate advisory committee that would look at, from a macro level, on an ongoing basis, the structure of CPS rates so that we can incorporate the big discussions that are taking place, not only at this table, but also throughout the community as it relates to asset management, generation planning, how we maintain affordability for our customers, given all the myriad challenges that we have. Obviously, we're in an inflection point for this organization, which can turn out to be a very positive one for us in terms of the long-term health of not just the organization, but also our community in general. Without need to really get into the heart of a discussion about the public nature of this utility, there have been calls, repeatedly over a long period of time in multiple places for the public to be further engaged with the process of these coming to decision on a lot of these issues. And so I proposed a rate advisory committee to help us do exactly that, with technical experts at the table as well as council-appointed representatives to make sure that we have a representative sampling of stakeholders throughout our community. It's my hope that we can get this going quickly to the next level, to the next step with a resolution, and I know you're prepared to offer that, John, and I thank you for that. And I'm looking forward to working with you all in the meantime on suggestions. I know we've had a number of discussions already, but I'm looking forward to the next steps, and hopefully by the next board meeting we come back and finalize the structure, mission, charge, and potential roster to be determined of an organization, of a committee that would do exactly that. I think this is a very important, firm step forward for our community and also for CPS, so thank you for entertaining it.
I did, and I see my friend Mario Bravo back there. So when you addressed us at the last meeting, you gave us that letter, and in the last paragraph of that letter, you mentioned, this guide here, the APPA, Public Participation for Community-Owned Utilities and Implementation Guide. So I took that to heart. I've read it. I know Dr. Mackey's read it too. A number of us have. And so what I tried to do was come up with a resolution that I think incorporated some of the things that I got out of here. And I'm going to ask Carolyn Shellman to go ahead and read it.
I will. This is a resolution titled Resolution Regarding a Rate Advisory Committee, RAC. Whereas CPS Energy continually strives to be a financially responsible and a strong steward of the community's assets, while effectively balancing its value pillars of security, safety, reliability, resilience, customer affordability, and environmental impact. And whereas to achieve the most effective balance among these important pillars, CPS Energy Management and the CPS Energy Board of Trustees are constantly exploring new technologies, considering new ways to innovate and improve current operations, and listening to our customers' ideas and concerns. And whereas the utility's rate design is an important factor affecting all customers and the amount they pay for retail electric and gas services. And whereas the Board of Trustees has charged CPS Energy's management to develop and execute diligently its flexible path strategy over the short, medium, and long terms. And whereas it is critical that CPS Energy's community be informed about and given an opportunity to provide input about the utility's approach and key decisions regarding rate design, so that our customer concerns and interests are consistently understood and considered by the board. And whereas rate design will include helpful information about the assets owned by the utility and CPS Energy's approach to recover for their costs in the company's rates. And whereas the board is committed to providing forums for customers and stakeholders to share ideas and observations when important decisions are being made. And whereas a way to further this goal of ensuring public participation is to provide balanced and objective information to assist the public in understanding alternatives and involve customers in an organized structure that can lead to public feedback, including formal comments regarding rate design and recommendations for the management team and the Board of Trustees to consider. And whereas the Mayor of San Antonio, an ex officio member of the Board of Trustees, has recommended that the board consider creating a customer committee to review CPS Energy's rates and provide input to the board on different rate designs that might be considered. Now therefore be it resolved that after careful reflection in the light of the foregoing, the CPS Energy Board of Trustees expresses its support for the mayor's request and hereby directs CPS Energy executive management and staff to develop for discussion and subsequent additional consideration a rate committee framework and initiative that would achieve the goal of providing input to management and the board on rate design issues and generation planning.
I'll move to approve that.
Good, so we've got a motion from the mayor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Dr. Mackey. Any discussion?
Yes, as I see this, Mayor, it's, that this is gonna be for input, for facilitator, for advisory only to this committee.
Correct. It does not supersede the board's authority.
Board authority. I think about a month ago, I was at a council meeting, and I know that the mayor is not the only one that have interest in this. There was other city councilmen that had the same interest, so I want to express that to the board. Then visiting about the management is gonna come up with the framework for the committee that's gonna bring it back to this board.
Yeah, the next step would be staff would present a formal proposal for us to adopt.
Okay. And then we get to make any changes necessary when it comes back to us. So I support it, Mayor, and it's good.
Thank you.
Well, I promised I'd be a good boy, but I think this is totally redundant. We've had 22 years of the CAC. If you look at the CAC, it is a very strong committee of 15 people, structured exactly the way the mayor wants to structure this one. It has provided invaluable service to this board for 22 years. It has really strong people. It has 2 utility executives who have over 50 years of experience. It has 2 outstanding engineers. It has school teachers. It has an architect from the finest outstanding architectural firm in San Antonio. It has a retired military service member. It has school teachers. It has community service individuals, including one person from the Kronkowski Foundation. This new committee is an affront to this committee. If I'm on the CAC, I'm saying, what am I, sliced liver? I've been doing this for 22 years. I can answer any question you have. Why do I need another committee? If one committee is good, 2 committees must be better. Why don't we have 5 committees? Let's have a whole room full of committees. We have an outstanding 22-year committee with an outstanding record of achievement, with an outstanding group of 15 members. I want to know, when you draw this resolution, what this committee can do that the CAC cannot do. What is the gap that we're filling here? I think the CAC has the ability to do anything we want done, and they have done it for 22 years. If I'm a member of the CAC, I'd take this as a slap in the face. And I want to see how we get around that.
May I respond? Sure. With all due respect, the CAC hasn't been seated in full in a very long time. I think currently they have 10 of 15 members seated. To this point in their 22 years have not been asked to look at rate structure design. This organization, this body would be given a specific charge, specific framework and mission and governing rules that would allow us to have that discussion. And it's structured differently. The CAC is intended to be a body that looks at the organization as a whole. They get briefings in private, frankly, without agendas posted or meetings in public. And this would be a different structure. In the end, if it's decided that we don't need both, I would suggest to you that this rate advisory committee needs to stand. And I can tell you, as Dr. Mackey stated, there is a strong desire to have this from the council, and I intend to deliver for them.
We have not, we've had one rate increase in 9 years. One rate increase in 9 years. Why do we need a committee to look at rates? If you're talking about solids having a committee, they have rate increases darn near every year. And just had a 10% rate increase last month. I can see them needing a rating committee. We don't need one. 9 years. We've had one rate increase in 9 years, and that was 6 years ago. We don't need a rate increase committee. This is political eyewash, pure and simple.
Can I be helpful?
Please.
Please.
We would talk to anybody about everything that's going on all day long. We could probably have, I think we could fill up a rate advisory committee, and there's a lot of other issues that the CAC does. We will take a charge to look at the split of responsibilities, to be fair, and we will look at the CAC and look at the things that they do. Our understanding for what this rate advisory committee is, there's more work, and it may not be the fair
Why not
thing.
assign it to the CAC?
It may not be fair to ask them to do it because
Have we asked them?
I've had some conversations, sir.
I don't believe that. I don't think we have asked the
I'm
CAC
not-
to do this, and they said no.
Sir, I don't mean to make you mad. I'm not trying to make
Okay,
you
you
mad.
bring the
Let
chairman of
me-
the CAC in and tell me that we asked them to do this, and they said no. I want to hear that.
I will follow back up with you so you will have confidence about this proposal, but the management team will bring you scope of work associated with what we think we're being asked to do and the work that we already have. So we will take that responsibility to come back to you. Now, just for clarity, design is not increase approval. That's a board responsibility because that's an increase of net dollars. Design gets into how people are charged and the equitability of the design that you have. It is very complex. It takes even more effort to do, and it is different than what we would normally do on a rate request.
We've been doing it for 78 years and a pretty good job.
We have
at it.
not done any changes in design of any substantial portion in decades.
We have been setting rates for 78 years.
Rate
How do we do
design,
it?
rate design is
Rate
different
design, I
than
don't
rate.
care what you call it, we've been doing it.
No, sir. No, sir. Rate design is different.
Well,
We
if
haven't
you're telling
changed.
us we gotta reorganize the whole company, I'll listen to that. Enough, I don't need enough,
Yeah.
let's vote and get on.
Yeah, we will bring you back some solutions to try to be helpful in this
Bring
space.
back justification for why the CAC
Yes, sir.
cannot do this.
I will do that.
Mr. Kelly, I think going back to the motion, we're directing the
I
management
understand,
to
and
come
but
back.
I want their direction,
Well, I
tell me
feel like-
why this can happen.
Right, and I think the mayor has expressed, and I think your office has already communicated some ideas and thoughts on it.
Yes, oh,
So
yes.
your ideas and thoughts can be
We'll
communicated.
get more ideas and thoughts from the entire
Yeah.
board. We'll do that.
Vote,
We will follow up on those items.
I'll call for the vote.
All right. And
Bill
we'll-
and Mansky, you weren't supposed to be avoided.
Is there any further discussion?
No, I mean, I see both sides. I really do. I mean, I think a lot of us, you know, we're privileged to be here. We go through a pretty extreme vetting process to participate. And I do, to some extent, the CAC is there for a reason, you know, and they're also appointed by city council and key individuals. And again, my concern is we need to be very careful. I want public input for sure. I understand we haven't done this in a long time. I understand there's a support for it. I'm all for it, but I really would want to evaluate why have another committee and another
We
committee?
will bring that dimension. back.
Committee by death, and it's harder to accomplish things when there's more committees on top of more committees. And I think that our community, our mayor wants to see some results, and I'm in favor of results. I'm more in favor of transparency and inclusivity. What I'm not in favor of being a small business owner is more bureaucracy, and then we don't really accomplish anything. And I want to see something happen. I just don't want to, again, dismiss the role of the CAC as well.
Have we voided using members of the CAC?
I don't know.
No, and that's what I was gonna say. I
That
would
would be a good
suggest
recommendation.
that the CAC would be the first place that we would look for candidates for the stakeholder committee.
Yeah.
And let me say, what's our bottom line here, Paul? Our total operating budget?
$2.8 billion.
$2.8 billion. We have one citizen committee representing a $2.8 billion public utility, and that committee is seating 10 of its 15 members right now. So I don't want to let anyone buy this notion that all of a sudden we're going to be overloaded with public input. That's just simply not the case. So we will perfect what we do. We have put out a very specific charge, a reasonable charge, and an explanation of what this rate structure design conversation would do, which is currently not taking place. And I'm in agreement with what this said. Let's vote.
Everybody ready? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One, you are opposed.
I'm opposed.
The only other, they're not all empty. A lot of the members will sit until they're replaced. So I just want to make sure, there's nothing wrong with the CAC, but we will bring forward
I
an
don't think
analysis.
there is
There's
anything
nothing
wrong.
wrong.
I think that's
They're
what
great.
Let's just do away with the CAC.
No,
Who needs it?
no,
We got this
no,
other thing now.
no, please,
Who needs
manage,
them?
no.
Okay, then let me recommend 3 or 4 more committees. Let's get a lot of committees. We
No,
need
but
a bunch of them.
We owe you some information.
You
to
owe
try
us
to
a
make it-
lot.
No.
Yes, sir.
Again, I think if we could repurpose the leadership, hopefully they can participate over here, that would be a win-win for everybody.
We will bring you back a proposal.
So Mayor, it's 3:30.
Yeah.
Right, almost on the dot.
I'm
so-
glad I didn't miss that. Thank you all very much.
Okay. All right.
Look forward to the next discussion. Ed, still love you.
Believe it or not, it's mutual. I do too.
I want to be loved. Is that okay?
Sorry, Paula. Sorry, Paula.
Oh, I'm out? I'm the short woman?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. I love you.
We can only live so much.
All right, let's then get back to our regular order. And so we have a resolution for approval of real estate item, Mr. Alvarez. And it's discussion and possible vote.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you, Board of Trustees. What I have here when we get the presentation up is, here it is, a sale of surplus property item, and I'll just kind of go right in. The objective here is to give just a little bit of background on the Vita Assembly Building, which is the property that we're talking about today, and ultimately to request approval to delegate your delegated authority to our president and CEO to finalize the sale of that property. Here is a campus map. Generally in the Bexar County region, of course, you'd see that out in Seguin we have Rio Nogales power plants, but we have a lot of properties that we have to manage, and we've previously gone through a process around a new substation, which we do from time to time. What we don't do a lot is declare properties surplus and then sell them, but it does happen now and again.
So our substations aren't on this.
No, so these do not include all of our substations. It's the 21 properties that would be sort of office buildings or service centers or service districts and power plants. So from time to time, we do identify some number of our properties to be surplus, and we ask the board to make a declaration to that effect. And in September of 2018, the board did just that on the properties that we've been speaking about for several months. As we've discussed previously, CBRE is our broker for these properties, and we're running a full market process to ensure that we obtain a really good value for our community. And in fact, I'm very pleased with where we landed on the Vita Assembly Building. We think it's worked out to be a great value for us and our community. A little bit of background on the building. I think most folks would be familiar with it. That's a Google Maps aerial image. The address is 401 Vita Street. It's on 1.11 acres. The distinctive flower design on the roof there. It was built in 1958 on the site of our first power plant in San Antonio. It's almost 25,000 square foot internally, and it hosts a large events in our community. It's once again very historic, and it has hosted some important events like NIOSA and other things.
So by the way, go back to that.
Yes, sir.
So people are old enough to remember Hemisphere.
Yes, sir.
68. I actually worked there. And the story I always heard was that there was a monorail that ran through Hemisphere, and that people could see the top of that roof, and there were complaints that it looked ugly, and that's when they decided to paint the flower on it.
Wow, I didn't know that, but that's a fascinating story.
Anybody else heard that story?
And now, anyone who sees that roof knows just what building this is. Yeah.
Is that Lisa Lewis? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good, thank you.
So yes, very distinctive, historic, and an important part of our community. So today I'm requesting that the board approve the resolution authorizing but not obligating the president and CEO or her designees to complete the sale of this property. And I think we have a proposed resolution there for your consideration.
So I don't think it hurts to remind people often, and we want to do it as often as we can. Why are we doing this?
Thank you, sir.
What's
Yes.
the big picture?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. The big picture is that we are constructing a new headquarters in the previous AT&T building on McCullough Avenue, and that's worked out to be a fantastic value for us. The dollars per square foot of this building, we're really pleased with that. It is lowest among benchmark buildings, but we are consolidating our employees in connection with that process, which will be great for the employees. It'll be great for our customers, and it will reduce our energy consumption quite a lot, by 60%. So lots and lots of good reasons to do it. And as a result of that action, we are needing to divest ourselves of the properties where those employees work. All of the employees that are at those properties will come to headquarters, so we're not reducing our headcount or anything like that. This is not an impact to our, nobody will lose their job associated with the move, but it allows us all to be under one roof. And this is one of the properties that we are vacating as in connection with our move to headquarters.
But as we think about the cost of that headquarters, we're thinking about this is offsetting the cost.
Yes, sir, that's right. As low as it is, the total cost of our building is comparable wise to other similarly situated buildings. It isn't free. There's nothing that's free, and so we want to make sure that we are offsetting as much of that cost as possible with the sale of these surplus properties. Yes, sir.
Mr. Kelly, you've commented often, but with your real estate perspective, that headquarters is a good deal for us, right?
It's an excellent deal. They, staff did an incredible job, I think, in terms of cost effectiveness. And I could prove that up very easily in terms of what we will have invested in that building vis-a-vis what we could have invested if we would not have been as cost effective as we have been. Yeah, it's a very, very good deal for the company.
Thank you, Frank, and the headquarters is going along great.
It's going on very well. We will be moving in the fourth quarter of this year. I keep saying next year, but it's coming really fast.
It's this year.
It's this year.
Not next year.
Yes, sir.
This is now.
Yes, sir.
Frank, is it fair to also just highlight that as board members, we're being very responsible for each asset that's out there in the market?
Yes, ma'am.
That we're taking I just want to make sure that people understand that we're very careful about how we're working and some of the outcomes that are desired. They're not just always about money. About safety,
I would say we are thinking about all spectrum of
if you can kind of
issues.
share some of the things that are important to us.
Well, sure. So anybody who has sold assets knows that the highest dollar is not always the right one, because there are terms and risks and things that factor into the arrangement. And so it is the totality of the agreement that is most important, though we've been very pleased that all of the prices that we've seen are very competitive. And so we are picking from among really competitive prices and then really selecting among them for best terms and how we think, what we think will deliver the greatest value to us and our customers.
And the community.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
will add, to your point, Trustee Gonzalez, the La Villita is a special property because it is fulfilled a public purpose for a very, very long time. And we have worked to balance a good competitive price because we had multiple bidders. We had a great process. We knew that we had a good price for that building. But it was also important to us to think about a buyer who will think about that, what it's been to the community. So you're exactly right. We've kind of looked at that and weighed those things and brought those opportunities back to the board.
And I just wanted to make sure for the record that the community knows. I mean, I have lots of great memories besides NIOSA, right? And going to participating there. But it is such a gem in our community. We have to be responsible about the outcome of the sale of that building. Just want to make sure.
Thank you for allowing us to bring that point out. It's a really
Thank
good
you.
point.
Well, and I think we're prohibited from being too specific.
That's right, sir.
But it's good, right?
Yes, sir, we
In terms
think
of
it's really
what-
good.
What Paul is talking
Right.
about.
Yes, sir.
Well, but I mean, I think, again, all properties are being handled in that matter, not just that one.
Yes, ma'am. All of them very thorough, and we appreciate your oversight and your input on these savings.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request for a resolution approving the sale of the real property.
All right, got a motion, a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gonzalez. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Alvarez.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to additional updates. And we've got discussion. Oh, yes, we have a vote on here. And this shows you as, Ms. Gold-Williams, this shows you as the presenter's sponsor. How do you
Yes,
want to?
just for clarity, the primary item for vote, the item for vote is 9C.
Is 9C.
Which will be about the
Yeah.
CAC members that we are.
Yeah, I should say that. So item 9 has A, cost savings, post-construction design review, and that's Mr. Gregory Lee. B is financial update, Ms. Dolores Lindsay Jones, and C is appointments to the Citizens Advisory Committee, Mr. John Lee House. So
That's correct.
So it's the 9C that we're voting on.
9C.
Okay.
Other than that, we are ready to have our speakers, starting with Gregory Lee, come up and share his presentation.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lee.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, Fred would like to make a little bit of a comment. I think, is this your first one to the full board?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Sheriff Steen, Dr. Mackey, and members of the
Can't really
Board
hear
of
you, Fred.
Trustees. Sorry. As Paula indicated in her report, we are here to provide input. I don't know that it's working.
I think it's working.
With respect to an operational improvement opportunity and cost savings opportunity that we most recently found. So we have brought into our group a methodology using Lean Six Sigma tools to assess and evaluate our processes, both for operational efficiency and safety. So Mr. Gregory Lee is going to present, and Greg is my chief of staff, and he's also overseeing our continuous improvement initiative across the board. He is Green Belt trained in Lean Six Sigma, and he's been here 25 years, both on the electric side and in gas. Greg?
Good afternoon, Chairman Steen, trustees, Ms. Paula. Thank you for this opportunity. As Mr. Bonawell mentioned, I came today to share with you some cost savings that we identified in our post-construction design review process. We had the opportunity this past December to actually share this information with Trustee Gonzalez and Trustee Dr. Mackey, and we were so excited about the savings that we wanted to come back and share with you today. So as far as objectives and takeaways, we'd like to identify that how we're utilizing process improvement tools to produce cost savings within our organization. And I plan to do that by first describing the post-construction design review process, and then highlight our continuous improvement efforts and how we utilize the define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, which is the DMAIC model of the Lean Six Sigma methodology that Mr. Bonwell just described. And last but not least, we'd like to share with you the financial benefits that we identified. And so to give context, I'd like to just briefly give a couple of the work responsibilities of the two entities that come together, the two parties that come together to actually perform this post-construction design review process. The first being the Gas Construction Contractors, in which they construct our gas facilities in accordance with a CPS Energy design sketch. So they utilize an engineered design sketch to actually construct these facilities. Meanwhile, while they're constructing these facilities, they have the responsibility of documenting the location and the quantities of facilities that are actually being placed, and also any constructed changes to the design that they may come across while they're constructing. And so while they're constructing these projects, we have CPS Energy employees, which are gas inspectors, who provide quality assurance and control oversight over this gas construction as it takes place, which is part of our regulatory requirement as being owners of these facilities. So once the construction is completed or a segment of the construction is completed, the inspector sits with the construction contract manager, and they kind of review this post-design and the information that was documented to ensure that there's accuracy of the placement and the quantities that were installed. So this post-construction design provided by the contractors are referred to here at CPS Energy as as-builts. CPS Energy inspectors meet with the contractors to review all as-builts, as I mentioned, provided for each project. So this actually takes place on every project. And so I wanted to kind of give an overview, just a kind of pictorial view of idea of what that looks like. So we're looking at a 20-inch gas pipe being installed in the middle of a field. You know, this kind of shows us how important it is to make sure that we document the location and the quantities of these facilities with accuracy when they're installed, particularly for future excavators that come into the area to excavate. So just wanted to kind of give you a pictorial view of that. And so what we did, we, as Fred mentioned, utilizing the Lean Six Sigma methodology, we kicked off a continuous improvement team. We had a pretty well-rounded team that also included one of our vendors, so we can have just a full perspective of any opportunities that were there for efficiencies. And so we focused on identifying some efficiencies that we could drive within the post-construction design review process, utilizing the DMIG model. And so in our analyze phase of the DMIG model, we were able to identify that this particular meeting to review these post designs were taking about 3 hours per inspector per week to perform. And so this duration time was 2 hours lower than what the expected time frame was to actually perform this task. And so, of course, quite naturally, you know, that resulted in the inspectors spending a lot of time in the office performing administrative tasks, more so than being out in the field, actually inspecting, bringing value to the projects that are being inspected. So, you know, we know what happens then. We need more resources. We need more people to help us to keep up with our workload. And so that was something that we started to hear from the inspectors. And so once we dug into this initiative, we were able to identify that as far as a cost value, our baseline of the 3 hours was approximately $2,790 that was being spent through resources to perform this task. And through implementing some training and updating our templates and our symbologies, training our contractors, we were able to minimize this time frame to now 1 hour per week per inspector, which equates to about $929, which is a 67% increase in added value labor, which is a difference of $1,860. And as Ms. Paula mentioned early on, it's approximately $96,703, approximately $100,000 of savings per year that we were able to identify. But not only with the cost savings, we were also able to increase our inspection quantity from 24 inspections a month to 34 inspections a month, which is a 42% increase in productivity, which we were really excited about, which is, of course, 120 more inspections taking place throughout the year. And so when you quantify this as a full-time employee of 1,040 hours of value-added time added back into this role, which equates to half of a full-time employee. So we were really excited that we were able to identify this value-added, this non-value-added time and reinvest it back into the business to help increase productivity. And also we improved our design quality by 60% with the training that we provided to our contractors. And then overall safety and compliance by ensuring that we have accurate documentation of the facilities being placed for future excavators. And so our contractors then, the contract managers, will then have the time to spend more time out on the field with their crews, giving that oversight. And so in turn, the crews were working safer. They were constructing more efficiently. So this kind of shortened some of the construction duration time that it was taking to actually construct a project just from being able to construct it with that oversight, ensuring that things are being constructed safe. So the results of this initiative increase value-added time that has been reinvested towards improving overall customer satisfaction by executing lean process that foster efficiency in our daily operations. So to summarize, we've already began our campaign to continue to use the DMIG model to identify other cost savings and efficiencies within our business. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for this opportunity.
Mr. Lee, so currently we're not outsourcing that function, you're working within our teams. It's our teams that you are working with to improve the process.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, with our teams as well as the collaboration with the
Okay, so
vendors
you
that
are
we
with the
partner with.
vendors. And are those vendors also Six Sigma?
They are currently undergoing some continuous improvement training themselves, and within the Six Sigma model, we just spoke to their leadership the other day, and they are actually furthering that training as well. So yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yeah, because I mean, I value that training. My only concern, if there's a small business, sometimes being certified and getting our team certified can be expensive, but as long as we feel pretty comfortable that we're training, we're part of the process, so they can enhance what we're trying to accomplish.
Yes, ma'am. We have spoken with some of them. We plan to continue to close that loop. Thank you for that recommendation to ensure that all of our vendors are on the same page with us
Right,
as far
even
as
if
our.
they're not all certified, but as long as they adhere to the basic principles of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that recommendation.
Any other questions or comments? That was an excellent presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to financial update. Ms. Lindsay Jones?
Good afternoon.
Oh.
She beat you too, Mr. Chairman. She's like a
Disappeared.
How'd
How'd you get up here without me seeing?
Magic. Chair
Just
Steve,
teleported.
trustees, good afternoon. I'm delighted to share with you the preliminary and unaudited financials. As Mr. Kelly often says, we look at everything through a financial lens, and so we will today.
So Ed's smiling now, that's great.
Good news.
Yes. I thought I'd give Mr. Kelly his props. I will be taking you through the financial results, key drivers, metrics, and focusing on two financial statements, the income statement as well as the flow of funds. So let's get to the good news. For fiscal year 2020, we ended the year at $161,700,000 of net income. This is where everyone's cheering and excited. And this is largely due to our overperformance on revenue. For wholesale sales, we exceeded our planned revenues by in August through the scarcity pricing, as well as taking advantage of the ERCOT very low margins, low wind, and it's important to note that our plants perform excellently, which is not always guaranteed. That's one of the things I want to point out. The net operating income was $83.8 million. Mainly driven by net revenues. Also, you'll see $18.5 million of non-operating revenue, and that's primarily due to really good management of our investments. We got really good return on our investments.
Absolutely.
Offset by a delay of property sale. So that's what I'll highlight on this slide. I will take you through the remainder of the P&L on the next pages. If you can recall from the budget presentation in January, Gary highlighted those first two areas, the net retail revenue as well as the net wholesale revenue, as not being guaranteed and subject to different factors like scarcity pricing or lack of scarcity pricing. We did extremely well in retail revenue, exceeding the plan by $18.1 million, and then for wholesale, exceeded the plan by $65.7 million. I will highlight also here the $26.6 million in cost savings. As you can recall, last year we had the charge to the business units to reduce their overall costs by $15 million. We achieved that. And in addition, every month we brought to you, as we did today, cost savings, which also contributed to our bottom line. In addition, for the financial plan savings, we brought $25.2 million. So a very, very strong year that we're super proud of.
Ms. Jones, how much of that was for the refinancing? Was that right
$25.2 million.
Okay, that's refinancing.
Yes. The next statement is our flow of funds, and it's essentially like our income statement to about this point, where you have our net revenues less fuel and regulatory. You can see that depreciation and maintenance is, operations and maintenance is favorable, as I mentioned. And then here, debt service, which is our principal plus interest, is favorable also because in January, we took down debt, $108 million, and we've managed debt extremely well this year. So net, a good flow of funds story. I will highlight also for our repairs and replacement fund additions, we added $113 million, which is very favorable. And then we did not maximize our capital expenditures. We're under by $45 million, and that's due primarily to EIT generation and power production projects that got rescheduled.
How much is in our saving funds? A savings that we have?
You mean reserve?
Reserve.
I'm sorry.
Reserve.
Cash.
Reserve.
Cash reserve.
Cash reserves. I don't think you have it there.
Yeah, it's not on this slide. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we have a repair replacement account, and then we have a general fund, so we follow up with the amounts on that, but it's healthy.
Yes.
Okay.
Just offhand, about $2 billion.
About what now?
What I can remember offhand is about $2 billion. The
okay.
Combination of that. I don't know, Gary, do you have this precise number?
Okay.
The repair and replacement account at the Subcommittee January 31st is $532 million.
Yeah.
What about the general fund?
General fund is $392 million, and repair and replacement is $532.
So about
82 or 32?
32.
532. Sorry.
532, and what was the other one?
392.
Okay.
So almost $1 billion.
Some of that was driven by some of the debt payment things that we did at the very end of the year.
So let's move to metrics. We had a very strong metrics year. We exceeded all three of our metrics: adjusted debt service coverage, days cash on hand, as well as debt capitalization. And one of the things I want to highlight is the debt capitalization metric. All our credit agencies recommend that we target 60%. And as you can see, going back as far as I could look, through 2015, I'm sure we have other results, but we've never dropped under 60%. So this is a pretty big deal. Still preliminary, but this is the first time it's dropped to below 6%.
Okay. You have been on us to do this. It's a touch for the first time, and we're going to have to keep working on it because, again, we're using some of our cash to optimize our debt levels and certain things. So it's gonna move back, but we did it. We did it.
That's an incredible number, sure. We've been chasing that number for at least 7 or 8 years, and it got as high as 63 plus. And so that one deserves a round of applause.
Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's up to audit, and it doesn't take much when you have an $11 billion balance sheet to pop it. So it's gonna flow back and forth. But I have asked multiple times for them to reprove that number because we have been driving for that, and we're gonna keep driving for that. So I gave you something.
She wants some love too.
We'll move on. So one of the things I wanted to share with you today is that we have this ongoing process of due diligence where we're looking at a lot of different factors, and want to highlight to you that one of the things when you look at the revenue, you think, oh my goodness, they overperformed. But one of the things we have never experienced is a bad year. All along we've had
knock on wood.
Yes,
we shouldn't say that now.
Yes, And so I think we've gotten used to having great performance. And of course, our goal is always to be driving the best results to our bottom line. But for example, in January, when we approved the budget, FY 2021 had wholesale revenues of 90 million. And then 1 month later, after that forecast got refreshed, it dropped down to 80 million. And so that just shows you the volatility in the markets.
Yep.
And are we very concerned right now? No. Are we watching it? Absolutely. For example, anytime we look at our financials, we can look at our base case or our budget case, and it could be high or it could be lower. In this case, we'll be monitoring it. We could come back in 2 or 3 months. It may go up if we have scarcity pricing like we did last year. But we might not have scarcity pricing. So that's one of the things I want to land today is that there's a lot of different factors that roll into us really landing the financials. And we're always looking for cost control and cost savings. Fred presented to our subcommittee on renewable natural gas as a potential revenue stream. And we could have an outstanding summer, which we're hoping for. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of different factors that roll into our bottom line financials. So in summary, based on preliminary results, we had a great year, mainly driven by the wholesale revenues in August and the retail revenue in September from warmer temperatures. And we continue always to look for cost savings and finance savings, which were strong in 2020 as well. And as Paula mentioned today, we have the auditors on the ground starting today for the month of March, so we'll get final numbers in the April timeframe. And we'll continue to look for ways to drive impact on our bottom line. Are there any questions?
I think y'all doing an excellent job, and I know Mr. Kelly has been driving it all year, and as this board has been really looking at the numbers and looking at what I'm looking at. I'd like to compliment Paula and her team for doing an excellent job in keeping up with the finances, because that's the driver of this organization. And I reflect on Mr. Kelly about for years, this organization has been doing a great job with the committee, CAC, and the board, past boards have led us up to this point. So again, thank you all for the job that y'all doing, and just keep up the good job, because financial is driving this organization here.
Thanks for your guidance and your support.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. It's 4 o'clock, and we're gonna, I need to rethink a little bit this agenda, because it looks like we're gonna run over, but otherwise, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. We'll be back, start back up at 4:05.
Just want to make this.
We're ready to get out of here,
No, we're okay. Remember? We didn't use, we moved that already. That's already done.
Yeah, somebody help me.
We have a 25-minute cushion.
So we can get up through all of this in an hour.
We've gotten through most of the, we're fine, we're on track. The break, how long did you give?
So, Mr. Leal, where are you? Okay, you're up on the appointments to the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Chairman Steen, members of the board, my name is John Leal. I'm the Director of Government Relations. I am happy to present to you two appointments to our Citizens Advisory Committee. One of them is here. His name is Frank Gonzalez. He's seated to my left, and he'll join me here at the podium in a few moments. The other, Mary Ellen Valise, is tied up at work with the congressman and unable to make it today. So today we will go over some governance, what their actionable duties are, and the appointment process as a whole. My intention is to speak of their history, background, new committee member highlights, and then request your approval for the two confirmations. As you can see here, they meet on the second Wednesday of every month. The committee was formed in 1997 by this board. There are 15 total members, and I call to your attention a handout that is at your desk right now that shows each one of the members in the positions that they represent. 10 are appointed from council members from in their district where they live, and 5 are appointed at large across our service territory. I will note that we have Mayor Mary Dennis from Live Oak that serves as one of our suburban city partners on this committee, as well as residents from across our community. The agenda, the committee meeting minutes, and quarterly activity reports are posted to our CPS Energy website for public viewing. The CAC has a variety of backgrounds, including finance, energy, government, franchisees, philanthropic relations, and food service. A number are retirees with military experience as well. Their duties. We present to them monthly presentations on a variety of different subjects that include substation and routing processes. I will note that the CAC submitted a resolution for the Midtown Substation, a letter of support. Members of the CAC were present at public meetings for the Midtown Substation, along with community events. So they're very actively involved. They take facility tours. As an example, later this year, when we're in our new building, they will take a new tour of our new call center. Just in 2019, they took a tour of our existing Northside Customer Service call center. They've been to power plants. In 2019, they visited the South Texas nuclear plant. And they also engage with council members and members of the community. Just like in Mr. Gonzalez's case, he's very involved with Quintana Neighborhood Association, where he got to meet Councilwoman Garcia. And that picture right there is a tour of the Southwest Research Solar and Battery Site. An appointment is for 3 terms of 2 years each. Like I mentioned, city council members appoint 10 of them from each one of the 10 respective city council districts, and members at large are chosen through application process and are interviewed by the entire CAC. This is a quick view of our executive committee. Our chairman is David Walter. He's an executive at Newstar. Luis Acaso, our chair-elect with Toyota Manufacturing, and Bill Day, Senior Vice President at Frost Bank. This is a different style cutout from what you have right now. In green, these members, Al Rodriguez, Roger Plass, and Robert Romeo, have been serving in their capacity as representing these districts, but the seat has been open. And actually this month on March 30th, I will bring a replacement for Mr. Rodriguez in District 6. Councilwoman has just appointed someone, and we're running her through that process right now. And then in all technicality, Robert Romeo's term just expired on Saturday.
Are all 3 of those term limited then through their...
They were, and they are also still invited to attend the meetings on behalf of the community.
But they've gone through their 3.
Yes, sir, they did.
On the ones, all of them are continuing to serve until their replacement is found?
Yes, Mr. Plass last attended in January, and Mr. Romeo was at our February meeting. This is a look at our at-large members, which includes Mary Ellen's appointment today, Ms. Valise, and of course, as I mentioned, Mayor Dennis from Live Oak. I'll ask Frank to join me here at the podium, and as he makes his way up, he's the manager for Alpha Environmental Services. with a degree from Texas A&M in eco-science and ranch management. Frank and his family own a small ranch in South Texas. He's very active in his community, as I mentioned, Quintana Neighborhood Association, and he's a volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. Not here is Mary Ellen Valise. She is the Deputy Chief of Staff for Congressman Doggett. She's been a volunteer coordinator for Judge Wolf, and she's actively involved with New Leaders Council, a group of young leaders in the community. It's very interesting to be a part of that group. And she is a UTSA graduate in political science. And so today, Board, I ask for the approval of both Mr. Gonzalez and Ms. Valise to the CAC committee. And I've asked Mr. Gonzalez to join me. Chairman, I know you ask some questions every so often. I'll stand aside and let Frank.
Welcome, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you for having me, board members and staff.
And so tell us a little bit about yourself and then about your interest in the CAC.
Well, I was born and raised here in San Antonio, on the south side of San Antonio by Bynum and Southwest Military. Been there for about 28 years. Went to A&M for 4 years with environmental degree. Came back in 2016, started working with my community, first with Habitat for Humanity, then with Building a Purpose, and then finding an engineering firm, well, environmental firm here, and being the area manager for Austin and San Antonio. So my job includes helping my clients in the compliance aspect in OSHA and environmental for our state, county, and their processes for either land development or construction of home builders or commercial projects. In the meantime, after work, I spend time with my daughter of 5 and my wife at home, going to the park, being active in the community, playing sports, reading her books, the normal family stuff. And then on my time, I usually keep up with anything from educational blogs to articles all the way to technology just to keep me informed.
One thing you're not mentioning, I know Dr. Mackey will be interested in this, but in his resume, it says he's learned how to handle, saddle, ride, feed, bathe, and exercise horses. Provided shots, medication, changed and dressed injuries. Learned how to repair fences, that's important.
Absolutely.
Clear vegetation, buy feed and hay for the horses, and clean stables, replace water. Learned horse behavior and associate with other populations. That's very impressive. We don't see many with that ranching background.
Well, thank you. It actually helped in my degree plan since along the road when I learned to be animal science, I learned that I love the environment a lot more than just taking care of the animals. So I want to take a whole master approach of the whole, from learning from point A where everything starts all the way to what affects people, animals, and planet. And so my eagerness to learn helped me grow in that aspect. And having those techniques and having a small acres, 7 acres just outside Lido, and having trail horses is great to have. And also a reminder that trail horses are really expensive monthly to monthly.
Especially to my 4-year-old who wants a horse.
Yes.
So thank you so much for taking an interest in this and volunteering to do it. We're proud to have you.
And as a Gonzalez, congratulations.
Give him a
That's
fist.
right. Congratulations for continuing to lift your last name. So thank you very much.
Of course,
And go Southside. And I'm a Southsider, so absolutely.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Good. So we're ready for a vote on?
Well, and I just want to comment. I've known the young lady, Mary Ellen Bellis, and I think she's an excellent individual for the position. I've had the opportunity to work with her in different capacities, and I think she'll do great. She has a breadth of knowledge in a lot of areas as well.
Thank you. I wouldn't be surprised if she sends you a letter of regret for her not being able to make it
And
today
she's
to
a
the meeting.
big time professional, just a great girl.
Very good.
So would you like to make the motion on
Sure.
Mr. Gonzalez?
I will actually, yes. Well, then it would be biased, and I don't want to get written up or something, so, no. No, of course, motion to approve Mr. Frank Gonzalez for appointment district 4.
We have a second? Second.
And let me say
Dr.
before
Mack.
we vote, this is another example of the outstanding type of individuals we have on the CAC. And I've had the opportunity to work with them when I was chair a few years ago. And I found that throughout the CAC, we have really outstanding individuals. And frankly, that's the reason I threw a bit while ago, because I think the CAC is doing an incredible job, and I think we need to give them an opportunity to take on these additional responsibilities rather than creating additional committees. And so I wholeheartedly approve both of these. I think they're outstanding candidates, and they join with 13 other outstanding people on the CAC.
Good, so Mr.
Mr.
Gonzalez.
Steve, could you clarify, was the motion to approve both?
No,
No, it was
just,
just the first candidate. It's just a general statement. He's saying he's gonna approve both, but it should just be the motion for the first person.
so we had a motion by
Okay.
Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by
Second.
Dr. Mackey.
For
All in-
Mr. Frank
All
Gonzalez.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. All right, let's take
Well,
up.
you also have a,
Yes,
Right.
let's take up Mary Ellen Elise.
I make a motion that we approve, move to approve Mary Ellen Lease, for that last position.
So we got a motion by Dr. Mackey, second by Mr. Kelly.
Because I don't want him to throw another fit if he doesn't.
Any further discussion? Any discussion? at all?
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good job.
It's
Thank
a
you very
good
much.
Yeah.
fit. It is your right to provide feedback.
All right, let's move to the consent agenda. We've got 3 things on there. Minutes of the regular board meeting held on January 14th, 2020. The minutes of the special board meeting held on January 27th, 2020. And then payment to the city of San Antonio for January 2020, an additional transfer to the city of San Antonio for fiscal year 2020. Any comments or questions, or do we just want to go ahead and vote on the
Just
consent
real quick,
items? Okay.
I already read it. I just want to make sure. I'm good.
I move approval.
So the motion for Mr. Kelly,
No second.
the second from Trustee Gonzalez. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we've approved the consent agenda. Now we'll move to the regular agenda, committee reports. Dr. Mackey, I'm going to turn it over to you. You've got the Employment Benefits Oversight Committee, EBOC, meeting held on January 21st, 2020. You've got the Audit and Finance Committee meeting held on January 21st, 2020, and you have the EBOC, Employment Benefits Oversight Committee, and Audit and Finance Committee Aligned Risk Subcommittee meeting held on January 21st, 2020. Dr. Mackey.
Okay, the EBOC, committee met on January 21st, 2020 as part of the EBOC agenda. The committee, A, approved meeting minutes from the prior meeting held on October 7th and December 6th, 2019. Reviewed an action item list from the December 6th, 2019 meeting. C, received a presentation regarding a benefit plan administrative and financial update, which include items related to succession planning efforts to investment performance update related to the plans, future anticipated funding expense requirements, and an update of Texas law requirements. Next meeting of the EBOC to be determined. The Audit, Finance, and Employee Benefit Oversight Committee met on March 2nd. The Audit and Finance EBOC Aligned Risk Subcommittee met on January 21st, 2020. As part of the Audit and Finance EBOC Aligned Risk Subcommittee agenda, the subcommittee A, approved minute meetings from the previous meeting held on October 7th. Review and discuss action items from previous meeting. Review the finance services risk environment with a focus on the following 3 risks, mitigating steps used to manage that risk. A, risk that rate support is decreased or fully declined. B, risk of noncompliance to current standards. C, risk of major fraud by employees and subcontractors. The next meeting of the Audit, Finance, EBOC Aligned Risk Subcommittee is to be determined. The Audit and Finance Committee met on January 21st, 2020. As part of the Audit and Finance Committee agenda, the Committee A approved minutes from the prior meeting October 7th, received an update of enterprise compliance, the current coal ash rule and the proposed rules which addresses the storage of coal ash material and Barrow County reassessment for ozone attainment scheduled for December 2020. B, the new North Atlantic Electric Reliability Corporation Supply Chain Standards. C, NERC audit scheduled for May 4th through the 11th, 2020. C, receive an update of the ethics program, which includes a summary of case opened and closed through December 31st. D, receive update on governmental accounting standards, GASB standards. Current year implementation by 1/30/2020. GASB 84 fiduciary activity defines specific criteria for identifying activities government should report a fiduciary activity. Effective in fiscal year 2020, A, GASB leasing accounting established a single model for leasing accounting based on the rights to use an underlying asset. No distinction between operating and capital lease. B, GASB 89, capitalization of interest costs, standardizing treatment of interest costs associated with the construction of capital assets. E, receive audit services update. A, status of fiscal year 2020 projects and staffing, review of Gallup employee engagement results, status of onboard Deloach as audit services third-party co-source vendor. B, proposed fiscal year audit plan will be provided for approval at the next audit committee meeting. C, overview of activities related to the external audit RFP process. The next meeting of the Audit and Finance Committee is to be determined. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey. Any questions or comments? Let's move on to agenda item 12, Midtown Substation Site Recommendation. Mr. Leroy, that is. And this is a voting item.
Good afternoon. My name is Leroy Pettis, and I'm here to provide a update on our Midtown Substation site recommendation. Today's presentation will be asking for approval at the end of the presentation, and this follows a very lengthy process that we have followed. This project kicked off early 2019. I've been providing several updates to our Citizens Advisory Committee, to our Board Operations Oversight Committee, and as well as the board. In January, I presented our recommendation, and this was followed by our board public input session that was held on February 4th. It was facilitated by Dr. Mackey during that session. Thank you for your support on that, and as well to the Board of Trustees. And so for the objective for today's presentation is I'll be providing an update on our overall customer involvement and feedback for this project. And then concluding with asking for approval of the site and project. And so for the agenda, I'm going to start off just with a brief project overview, recap of our customer involvement, our recent board public input session. I have some renderings to show of our recommended layout. This was showed during our board public input session, and then I'll be asking for board action at the end of the presentation. And so this is our guiding pillars. There are 6 guiding pillars that you may have seen. This is so everything we do here at CPS Energy through Paula's leadership follows one of these and is in alignment with one of these. And our substation projects are directly in alignment with our reliability of these 6 pillars here. And that is because this project is needed.
By the way, Mr. Pettis, thank you for starting out with that. That's a good way to lay the foundation for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. And so our project is needed to serve the Midtown and North Central regional areas that are identified in the San Antonio SA Tomorrow plan. It'll increase capacity in the northern downtown area. So this right here, this is I-10, here's 31. And so this project will increase our capacity in this area to support our residential and commercial growth. And it'll also strengthen reliability in line with that one pillar. Our substations improve performance of our existing distribution lines as once it gets installed, the length of the exposure of the existing circuits are shortened, our distribution lines are shortened when we install these. And our target date, again, just as a reminder, is January 2023 to energize this. And so when we kicked off this project in early last year, we started off with the study area that you see here. It is encompassed about 1.6 square miles. This right here is Hildebrand, and this is San Pedro. And one of the major constraints that we came upon this project was how urbanized and fully developed this project was. There were many habitable structures, and so we were looking for what was going to be that best site to minimize the displacing of any residents or businesses. And so we found this property, the strategic site that you see here. It's approximately 2.1 acres in size, And what is very ideal of this site is you can see this red line here. This red line is an existing transmission line. And so our substations require a transmission line to power it. And so this right here was the very ideal location that we found for this project here. And so our project involved a lot of customer involvement. Before we conducted our open house that you see on the left, we presented this and we received feedback from our Citizens Advisory Committee. Following that, we conducted our open house in September. This was to introduce the project need and to communicate the reliability improvements to our community. We then had additional neighborhood meetings with our customers. We received and evaluated additional feedback, and our intent was to strengthen community acceptance of this project. During one of these neighborhood meetings that was being facilitated by our Councilman Roberto Trevino, citizens asked if we could work with HEB, and through Councilman Roberto's, he initiated discussions between CPS Energy and HEB, and we have been working with them to improve the layout, and I will be showing that revised layout here in just a sec. And then we conducted our board input session, again, as I mentioned, in February. And so off on the left, here are all the dates for these meetings that we had with the community, with the most recent one here. And so some additional outreach efforts that we facilitate during our projects is we'll use a project website. We also send a project brochure, FAQs, and questionnaires. Before our events, we also put newspaper advertisements. One that is probably new with social media coming, new to our routing and siting projects, is using social media. And so just over here on the right, you'll see a little snapshot of a blog that went out. It was also put on Twitter and Facebook, and it really helped spread the message of our project. And so for our public input session, again, it was conducted in February, and there was 28 attendees who attended. Seven registered to speak, and only 6 spoke. In general, the community expressed appreciation to CPS Energy, Councilman Roberto Trevino, and HEB for our collaboration efforts. And of those 6 speakers, there were several topics around common themes around for discussion, and you can see them listed here. Stormwater drainage, and so I'm going to just touch each one of these really quick and just provide you how we are responding to that feedback that we received. So the first one was around stormwater drainage, and questions were raised about our plans to reduce flooding that could be created with more construction in the area. And our plan to address this includes the substation will be designed in accordance with the City of San Antonio's Regional Stormwater Management Program. To further reduce stormwater drainage issues, we will use an on-site water detention pond. It will be designed and constructed in accordance with the latest City of San Antonio Stormwater Design Criteria Manual and Unified Development Code. And the detention pond will be dry and will only hold water during rain events and for short periods thereafter. The next was around asphalt color. There was questions were raised about how to prevent the area from attracting heat. And we're addressing this as we will use a light gray pavement sealer within the substation area or similar product to soften the asphalt color to reduce the amount of heat absorbed by the pavement. The next one was around trees and grass, and questions were raised about how to create a more appealing and environmentally friendly view of the property. And our response is that we are committed to preserving as many trees as possible, and we will incorporate them into the overall site design. As requested by the community, in addition to preservation of trees, we will be using a mix of trees and grass to also be installed along the road Belknap and our planned driveway. Driveway width, we were also asked to consider narrowing the driveway width. And after reviewing, we will reduce the driveway width from 50 feet to 30 feet. Lighting, we were asked to not overlight the area. Our plan to address this includes the lighting design for both designing both the Midtown Substation and the HEB parking lot, which will follow the City of San Antonio's guidance of exterior lighting for the International Dark Skies and the San Antonio Urban Lighting Master Plan. And lastly, we were asked to create a direct contact for questions as they may arise. And Paula hinted on this earlier of having a project liaison. And so we are committed to continuing to address our customers' questions and feedback and to updating them during this project. Basilio Rocha is the CPS project manager who is actually here sitting in the audience. Basilio has been doing a really great job managing this project. He will be the project liaison and will be available to our customers as their project progresses. And so all of this that I'm giving you just a brief recap, we did send a letter that included our plans to address this feedback. And it also included Basilio's contact information, as well as Amanda Canales, who is also sitting next to Basilio. Amanda has also been helping with this project, been doing a great job, and she will serve as backup to Basilio.
You said you sent a letter.
A
I was
letter.
gonna say, how much time do they have for additional feedback from the letter?
Well, the letter,
I think we've checked off all of their
right,
comments.
yes.
So they are.
Letters
they
went to
don't
the
just
people
have to-
that offered these comments,
Yeah,
and
we
this
just
is a
have-
follow-up.
We just need to follow up and make sure that we execute them.
But the letters, the letters have already gone out?
They did, yes, to the community. And I believe I was talking to John Leal, who is also here in the audience. He did have a conversation with the president of the neighborhood association meeting this weekend, who she did indicate she received the letter as well, some of the neighborhoods, and that they are happy with.
As long as we have some additional confirmation.
Yes. And
Because
the
it's a
letter
very
went, I
active
think, in
community.
Spanish and.
And yes, that's correct.
And again, Dr. Mackey and Mr. Kelly, thank you, Mr. Kelly, for participating, because I had to go to DC, so I really appreciate that. I know it was important also that you had some concern, or maybe you just wanted additional feedback on the property, the real estate.
Well,
Did you get to,
The,
was that satisfied?
yeah, I think the thing I'd like to say is that I think Mr. Perez and his team did a great job. And Dr. Mackey and I sat through that public input session, and as he mentioned a moment ago, they addressed every issue that came up, which I thought was excellent. I did have some concerns about our purchase price, but that was not a concern from CPS side. I just want to make sure that the brokers that represent us are doing the very best job they can, because let's be honest about it, they are not motivated to get the best price. Because the higher the price, the higher the commission. And so you have to structure that in such a way that they know if they don't do a good job, they're not going to get any more business. And so that's the big thing, is just making sure that our broker is cognizant of that. But the team, I thought, did an excellent job. I was very
Thank you for
impressed
that
with
feedback.
Thank you. And I'm just going to show a couple of renderings. So this right here is a picture of the existing conditions. Here is the property that we will be seeking approval here in a sec to purchase. But this is a street view of the existing conditions. Here is an aerial view of the property.
What was it again? What was the use of it?
It is being used as a construction facility. It's a concrete construction company operation that was occurring on this property here.
And there's the railroad track.
The railroad tracks, you could,
Is that your?
and then you could just make out the transmission line. There is an existing structure here and another one right here. That's right. And so here is the existing HEB employee parking lot, and next rendering here in a sec, you'll see how we're going to be modifying that. And so before I do that, I just wanted to kind of show, before I get into how we're improving, this is a typical substation that we have at our 36th Street substation. There is a lot of above ground equipment that you see. This equipment that you see running from left to right that's at a transmission voltage. You will see in the rendering how we are, because of the footprint of the property was small in nature, we're going to be utilizing a technology that's going to be putting all that above ground equipment into a building. And so here's the first rendering of that same street view that I just showed a second ago. Starting off, here is the driveway. We modified this rendering at the board input session. It was wider, which caused the community to ask. But now it's been revised, and you can see how we will be planting grass along our driveway, trees and bushes along Belknap. And so what you see here is actually a photoshopped, if you will, rendering of the employee parking lot. And off in the back, you could see our substation that is somewhat behind and being buffered by that. And so here is the same aerial view of that previous. And so you could see here is our substation. It's been pushed, working with HEB. It's creating a buffer from the street view along here, as well as a spatial buffer. Some of the feedback that we were getting from the community is they were wanting more spatial buffer. And so doing this gives them that spatial buffer. You could see, again, the grass that we will be planting and the trees. They were really asking for us to try to save as many as these trees that you see down here. And so we are showing and we're committed to trying to preserve as much as we can as we design this site. And so earlier I showed you that above ground equipment, and it would be all placed in this building that you see here. These right here, our first transformer lineup, even though we show what looks like 3 of them initially, and we did communicate this to the public, is that there will only be one at first that will be placed in the most northern position, which gives them additional buffer to our equipment. This is the rendering. This is what we displayed, and we've even done additional improvements based on the feedback that we received. Again, the grass, the narrow driveway. And so I would like to thank our customers for their involvement and input, our Citizens Advisory Committee for their resolution and support of the project, Councilman Roberto Trevino for his collaborative efforts, HEB for agreeing to allowing us to work with them to implement our customers' feedback, and our Board of Trustees for your guidance and support through this process. And at this time, I'm asking the board to approve our purchase of the strategic site, to execute the property exchange and shifted layout with HEB, and execute planning and construction of the project. And in your board packet is a resolution that would approve this. And at this time, if there are no questions, I'm requesting the board to pass a motion to approve that resolution.
Outstanding presentation.
Thank you.
I think this is very much impressed me. This is just a textbook example of how you should do this.
Thank you.
So, any discussion, or do I hear a motion?
I move approval.
Oh, so we got a
Second.
motion from Mr. Kelly, seconded by Trustee Gonzalez. Any questions or comments, or any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your support.
Good job.
We only have one more thing left.
All
We're
right, so
good.
it's 4:37, and we've got maximizing customer insights with Deanna Hardwick. And how long does your presentation take?
I can get it in 6 minutes.
Oh, my gosh, that was.
Wait. She had 15.
You don't have to make it 6.
But if you have questions, it's really cool stuff, so, I can make it go for even
Can
longer.
Can I tell them why we need to be through by 5?
No.
No?
No worries.
All right.
So good afternoon. I'm here to share with you information on our Customer Insights program. We're really able to learn a lot about what we have on our customers and by what they tell us through surveys and through other research. So we just want to share with you what we're able to learn about our customers and really how we're able to take meaningful action based on what customers tell us. So currently we have over 52 products and services, and we want to make sure that we're double checking and that we've optimized the programs, and we're really providing value to customers based on what they tell us is important to them. So I'm going to be able to go through, let's see, it's already on the agenda. So I'll be reviewing some of the overall feedback that we've identified through our research. Also talk about insights and key findings that we have on the different generations. I'll also talk about what customers tell us matter most to them, and then go into really how the insight supports to make sure that we're doing and identifying what's good about our current programs and what else we could focus on. So to start off, we want to show people first in action, and it really is all about our customers. We want to make sure that we are understanding customers' preferences, attitudes, and behaviors so that we really are supporting them the best way possible as their homegrown utility. You've heard Paula speak many times about how we think global and act local, and one way we do that is through our insights. So what we do is we use our research to identify global trends, and we've highlighted some of them, where you can see on a global level that 72% of customers would engage with a non-traditional provider, and over half prefer digital interaction with their utility. You can also see that the average person will move approximately 11 times in their lifetime. And then when we look at that at a local level, you can see that 39% of customers would engage with a non-traditional provider, and that's like a Google or an Amazon as a provider. And so what this tells us is that while there is interest, it's not as significant as we see on the global level, but we still want to make sure that we are understanding this preference so we can ensure that our offerings are meeting those needs should interest begin to grow in this area. And at the same time, we see over 54% of our customers prefer digital interactions. We know that this is going to continue to grow, so we're going to continue to monitor this preference to make sure that we're meeting customers where they expect to find us. And you can see here, the average person in Bexar County will move approximately 15 times in their lifetime. So that's important to us so that we make sure that we're optimizing the move experience for customers, whether they're new to our area or if they're just moving from one side of town to the other. And then we're able to go down deeper into the data to make sure that we understand who makes up our population and also what are they looking for. You can see that millennials and Gen X makes up the majority or kind of the largest piece of our population, followed by Gen Z, boomers, and the legacy generation. So while we see that we have a large population of people who live here, who have grown up using technology to communicate digitally, we know that that's going to continue to be their expectation no matter who they do business with. But at the same time, we've got to keep an eye on the other expectations. So for boomers, they want to be able to go online to do research, but still be able to interact one-on-one for advice and counsel. So by understanding these preferences and making sure that we understand what the different generations expect for us, we're able to make sure that we have the communication through the channels that they expect to find us at. So for instance, with the boomers, we're available online for digital messaging as well as for any research that they want over our programs and services, but we're also available by phone and in person to offer that advice and counsel. Another of the key areas that customers tell us is important to them is affordability. The average energy bill in low-income households, about 10 to 12% of the income for those households. So that tells us that programs like budget payment plans and senior citizen billing really is important. And then for homeowners, we offer programs like the Wi-Fi thermostat as well as weatherization. Also, last year, San Antonio was named as the metropolitan area with the most people living at or below the poverty level, and we've been able to reinforce that through our local insights. So again, this just emphasizes that we need to have programs like our affordability discount program and making sure that we have the right utility assistance partners, and it's really key for these customers to help them. So as the homegrown utility, we really want to make sure that we're finding the right partners for our customers. And we have been able to identify over 100 agencies that we've been able to work with over the years. And you can see that they do more than just help out with the energy bill. So while we help identify who the right partner is for the customer, we also want to make sure that they're getting the most support that they're eligible for. So through this process, on average, customers are receiving about $1,300 a year by identifying what support is best for them. And so whenever we pull all this together, this is what we deliver through what we call our bundled customer care. And we've highlighted a couple of the examples up here, and that's really what we do to provide a holistic approach to support these customers. You can see in the first example, we have a customer that received about $1,700 in assistance through our partners like REAP and other agency partners. We were also able to enroll them in our affordability discount program, which on average is a savings of about $148 a year. And we enrolled them in our critical care program. And this is really delivered through our community response unit. We have a couple members here today. We have Laura Jacobs and Jacob Bettis back there. Wanted to recognize them. They're the ones going out in the field and identifying what is the right approach to fit each one of our customers' individual needs. We understand that the affordability concerns are going to continue to be at the forefront of our customers' minds, and we also know that it's not just something that customers who are at or below the poverty level are concerned with. So that's why programs like STEP is key for us. We've got to incorporate and know what worked well and make sure that we're using it as a bridge as we move forward with FlexStep. So we're going to continue to go through and make sure that we have and can get the most out of the insights that we have available as we continue to enhance our communication options, whether that's digital or non-digital, and as we go through and make sure that we have the right partnerships to support our customers. Additionally, we want to make sure that what we do and that we're aligning our priorities with what customers tell us is important to them. We continue to survey customers and ask them to tell us what's kind of where they put the highest emphasis from our guiding pillars. And consistently, customers tell us they want reliable and affordable service. So that's one reason, and that means that we've got to continue to prioritize these in everything that we do.
As we're meeting with them, you know how we have a bundle of customer care, like you provided two
Mhm.
examples. Do we do any kind of like assessment and say, this potential family might qualify in the future for solar or one of those lights, a cool roof or any of that? Are we also assessing those things?
We are. We're looking at all of our products and services that we have available and also the ones that we know through our other agency partners that we can connect them with. Any other questions?
Any questions or comments?
Other than I was surprised with the millennials versus the statistics with the millennial and Xers.
That we have some.
I expected more millennials in San Antonio based on everything you hear.
Well, I think it's also you have your Gen Z in there too. So
Yeah, but they don't count.
Yeah, they don't count. They're not paying bills.
They're not paying bills
Ms.
yet.
Hardwick,
We're still
outstanding
supporting
job.
them.
Thank you very much.
And that was a lot of information. You moved through it very briskly. We appreciate it.
That was
You're
it was a good presentation. Thank you.
If you want to talk more about it, I can go into more insights anytime you're interested.
Okay. All right, so that's it. We're at the end of the meeting. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Anybody have anything else?
You sure you don't want to add more? Just add some more. Mr. Kelly wants to stay longer. Add some more. Then you really turn green. Add some more.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mackey, Dr. Mackey.
Waiting on you, Dan.
All right, I will hold it up.
All right.
Motion to officially adjourn the board.
Second, okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned.
Good meeting, guys. Oh, Jane, you know what Jane?